Melissa McCarthy, Muppets, foul language, and Muppet porn. Yep, that's where we are. Let's do this. The Happytime Murders. The Happytime Murders is a movie that envisions a world where Muppets are a real thing. I don't mean the show The Muppets, I mean like Muppets walking around the world, living out their lives day to day, just like human beings, with human beings. In this weird alternate LA where Muppets live among us, we follow a Muppet private investigator named Phil. I think his name was Phil. I honestly can't remember. Pretty sure it was Phil though. Phil is a disgraced cop and was the first Muppet police officer. When he was a cop, his human partner was Melissa McCarthy. This was supposed to be some kind of big deal in this world because no Muppet had ever been a police officer. But then there was a shooting incident that they were involved in, and he was kicked off the force and now lives out his life as a PI. The movie centers around Phil investigating a string of Muppet murders, all of which being connected by the fact that all the victims used to be on a show called The Happytime Gang. Through a course of events, Phil gets reunited with his old partner, Melissa McCarthy. I have absolutely no idea what her name was, and I really don't care to look it up. Together, they go on the hunt for the murderer, getting mixed up in a whole lot of outrageous situations. And through all these situations, they end up navigating their way through... Yeah, that's how I felt while watching this movie. Because it's just boring! And I can't believe that it is. Look at the premise. You have adult-themed Muppets running around doing crazy shit throughout the whole movie. It should be hilarious. Look at Peter Jackson's Meet the Feebles. It was kind of the same thing, but done so much better 30 years ago. I'm not going to go into the story anymore, really, because it really doesn't matter. And if you don't end up clicking away while I talk about it, I might bore you to sleep. This movie is dull. And while the world that it's all set in seems interesting and has some pretty neat ideas, it seems like the filmmakers don't know what to do with that. They rely far too much on the absurdity of the Muppets being placed in these adult raunchy situations and the shock of it all. And while that has its moments and can be funny, they just miss the mark at every turn here. There's two ways you can go with a comedy like this. You can either have the comedy come from the jokes within the movies that the characters are telling and be kind of a screwball, goofy comedy, or you can rely on the absolute absurdity of everything that's going on screen. However, if you're going to do that, you have to play it straight. That's what makes it funny. This movie tries to do both. It tries to rely on the absurdity of the situation, but while at the same time, instead of playing it straight, they try and tell jokes the whole time. And it doesn't work that way. If you're going to laugh at how absurd something is, it has to be played against a straight background. Because if the situation is absurd, your characters are absurd, and the whole world is absurd, then nothing's absurd anymore. It's just normal. And normal ends up being boring, which is what this movie does. I can honestly say that I can't remember the last time I didn't laugh at a comedy more. There was one part, that I can remember I actually laughed out loud in the second half of the movie where Phil and Melissa McCarthy are going through a house trying to find someone, whispering to each other down the hall. The couple of seconds of banter and misunderstandings that they have right there were really funny, and I actually did end up laughing out loud at that. But beyond that, nothing. It's just not funny. There's some sight gags in the movie that should be funny, but the movie tends to take them on far too long. The filmmakers didn't seem to know when to cut it off and let the gag go. There's so much of this movie that just outstays its welcome. Furthermore, let's talk about Melissa McCarthy. She's playing Melissa McCarthy. Pretty much what you expect from a Melissa McCarthy movie, which is what this movie is, a Melissa McCarthy movie. Which is part of the problem. The movie can't make up its mind whether it wants to be this absurd adult Muppet movie or a Melissa McCarthy movie. It seems like the original script was probably more of an absurd Muppet movie, and then Melissa McCarthy was hired for the part, and they ended up shoehorning her and her brand of comedy into it. And I really think that takes away from the overall experience. There's nothing wrong with Melissa McCarthy. She's been in some really funny movies. And some really bad ones. She's not inherently bad, but she really just doesn't belong here. And her brand of comedy just doesn't land. So is it all bad? No, not everything is bad in the movie. From a technical standpoint, the movie gets a lot of things right. It's competently shot and cut together, and the special effects are actually really good, especially the puppetry. The puppets on display here are top-notch, and they do an extremely good job there. The voices, the creativity of the designs of the puppets, and how they move about the world, and all their interactions are extremely well done. I'll give them that. But none of that makes a fuck because the rest of the movie's execution is so bad. It's boring as hell. And being boring is a cardinal sin, in my opinion, when it comes to entertainment. It's kind of the opposite. Beyond that, the only thing it has going for it, I guess, is the acting. Everybody in it does a good job. There's nobody there that you're just like, oh my god, that was awful. I mean, from a comedy standpoint, I guess it is, because, yeah, they're pretty awful on the comedy side of things. From a purely delivering of lines perspective, They do fine. There's nothing bad. Delivery of jokes, on the other hand, that sucks, which is kind of where I stand on this movie. It just kind of sucks. It overstays its welcome. It's pretty mean-spirited. It's a downer. And worst of all, it's just boring. So should you go see this movie? No, absolutely not. At best, check it out on USA Up All Night if it's on. And after that, go and buy Peter Jackson's Meet the Feebles, if you can find it, and watch that. Because that movie's awesome. If it's not being funny, it's definitely being entertaining. And what it's never is boring. So there it is, guys, my review of the Happytime Murders. Don't waste your time and money. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button. It helps my little channel out more than you know. If you liked what I had to say, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.
I'm in the fucking FBI.
Oh yeah, what's that stand for? Fucking big idiot?
For 50 cents, I'll suck your dick.
Hey, handsome.
You looking for some rotten cotton?
I'm a woman. God, are you alright?
I ruptured my hymen.
I mean, really, do not waste your time on this movie. It sucks. The Muppets sucks. It's boring as hell. I told you not again, motherfucker!